So let me start by saying this. Bashar has definitely revolutionized the self-empowerment journey with his acting on your highest excitement formula. There's no doubt about that. I mean, he deserves credit for that to a high degree. I mean, nobody else before him talked about that, and it's an extremely effective way of getting up the scale of consciousness in my personal experience, because I acted on my highest excitement my entire life. I did it long before I heard about Bashar. It came naturally to me, like it probably do to many volunteers who come from a higher level into this planet to help on the ascension mission and whatnot. It's like in your blood, so to speak. You do it. And anything else for me felt like selling out. I mean, if I didn't act on my highest excitement in anything I did, it felt like a sellout. So I always did that. But the point is, Bashar has created a formula that no enlightened teachers or anybody in the history before him has actually talked about. So, I mean, he deserves a lot of credit for that. But the problem, in my view, which I'm going to talk about in this video to clarify, is his teachings about so-called negative beliefs. Because I see a lot of people confused by this. On the Reddit forum about Bashar, people ask about how do I find this negative belief and all these, and you're basically chasing. It's like wild goose chase. It's not real, because people are misunderstanding what he means by beliefs in the first place, and it's a bad way of expressing. It's not really clarifying how it actually works, and it's extremely important to understand that, because that's half the. In addition to his formula, that's basically half the journey. Is the inner work you have to do all the time. So if you don't understand what you're supposed to do when you misunderstand it, you can really go, you can get into frustration and just give up on the whole thing, because you don't find any negative beliefs. Where are those negatives? Where are all those negative beliefs you're supposed to find? I'm looking. There's nothing there. It doesn't work like that. First of all, you don't really need to look for any beliefs inside, okay? They will come up automatically when you allow that process to start, which means you must be established. You must establish like a space in yourself that allows for anything to come up, even though it's painful or chaotic. And that you do by formal meditation, sitting down and creating this space and detaching from the mind stuff or the thoughts and emotions, sort of observing it neutrally. When you have established that, and they can also help doing physical yoga for a while before you sit down with formal meditation. That I did that a lot in the beginning, because I wasn't really ready for meditation. I thought, at least in my, I wanted to do yoga first, and also a lot of trauma energies and whatnot are stored in the muscles. So when you do yoga, you're actually releasing those trauma energies, and they will come up in your system. And the same goes for meditation. When you start to open what I call Pandora's box, when you allow the unconscious mind to start cleansing itself, instead of blocking the process like most people do by default, because they're scared of going there. So you have to open that Pandora's box, and you have to be willing to face whatever comes up. And when you do that, when you establish yourself in that, you can do that continuously all waking hours. You don't have to sit down and close your eyes to meditate. You can always be in observer mode of your own mind stuff that comes up. And that's how you do it most efficiently. But I never looked for anything. I took myself from level 50 on the scale, which I spent a couple of years, because I descended down, like most light workers who came here. You descend down, for a while until you sort of turn your life around. So when I was 20 years old, I was at level 50. I came in in the mid 300s. I was at the level 50 when I was 20. I spent a couple of years at that level, and with my whole life was basically centered around partying and alcohol and hanging out with pretty bad friends and whatnot. And then I started turning my life around, and I quickly rose from 50 to the higher 500s in a matter of 4 years or so, after I started to basically take action and turn my life around. And I also got help from a fully enlightened teacher at level 1000 in that momentum I created, the positive momentum, when I started moving in the right direction up the scale. But my point is, I have done a lot of inner work, and more so than most people. I know all about what it is about, and it's not really about looking for any negative beliefs. That's a misunderstanding, and it's really important to be clear about this, because otherwise you can really get off track. So what is it actually about then, if it's not looking for these so-called negative beliefs, which you will not find anyway, because if you find them, you might start to create them in your mind instead of because you think you find them, and then you basically create more stuff instead of removing stuff. My point is, you don't need to look for the negative beliefs, okay? What you need to do is act on your highest excitement and create this space inside of allowing anything to come up, no matter how chaotic or painful it seems. That you must establish, and when you act on your highest excitement, you're becoming a higher vibrational version of yourself all the time as you do that, and that forces up in you any negativity that is not compatible with your new version of yourself that has a higher vibration, a higher frequency. And that's how, that's when you need to do the inner work, which basically is to sit and accept and observe neutrally whatever comes up in your mind. Be that most likely it will be negative emotions. So it's not so much beliefs as it is negatively charged emotions and pain and whatever, all sorts of stuff will come up like that. And that's when you have to do the inner work and look and observe neutrally and not act it out and not repress it again, and let the energy momentum play out in your mind as you observe it, unconditionally accepting. And when this trauma energy or negative energy has expressed itself, it will leave you, and it will feel like a relief when it leaves, and it may also drag along with it some kind of belief or insight that you get when it leaves. So that in that sense you can call it a negative belief, but it's more like, in my experience, there's no like, you can't find, I believe this, I believe that. You're never going to find any of those beliefs, okay? You're not going to find anything like that when you look inside. And when this negative trauma energy leaves you, or this negative emotion leaves, you might get an insight, because it's like, you have a certain percentage of awareness available, and now you have uncovered a little bit more of your full awareness, and that gives you a different perspective, a new insight. And that continues to happen every time these negative emotions or trauma energies or whatever leaves your body, leaves your system. So it's not really about looking for anything. Don't look for negative beliefs. Don't try to identify. I mean, the main problem everybody have anyway at the bottom of everything is the unworthiness complex. That's the so-called negative ego, which actually is an unworthiness complex, consisting of layers upon layers of negative stuff, or trauma energies and negative emotions and whatnot. You can't, talking about beliefs like Bashar does is actually misleading people. And I don't understand why he don't see that. They can monitor everybody on the planet all the time, and how are people developing? Why doesn't he change this teaching, or at least elaborate and make it more clear for people, like I'm doing here? Because it's very important not to be misled by thinking that you have to look for negative beliefs, because most people think about a belief like, I believe this, I believe that. It's much more fundamental and deeper than that, and it's also tied into negative emotions and trauma energies. And that's the main thing you have to cleanse and look for, or not even look for, but when it comes up, you have to be ready to face it without judging, in complete acceptance, and just allow the energy to play out its momentum, and then it will leave you automatically. But you must keep the attention on it neutrally and not judge or not repress, not act it out. And that can sometimes take a while. You might have to go, do it sitting down with your eyes closed, or you can do it, if you can, also, during waking hours. But depending on the size or, the charge of the energy and how severe it is, it can take time to do that sometimes. You can do it, you can go back and forth. You can work on the same stuff more than one time. You don't have to, it doesn't have to leave in one sitting, so to speak. It can also be something that you have to return to and bring up again and, work on until it leaves. But the point is, you should not look for any negative beliefs and even think about that. You should focus on acting on your highest excitement and, what like Bashar talks about, and doing that, and then the negative beliefs, so-called beliefs, or the negative energies will come and surface on their own as you do that. The main idea is to be able to deal with the chaos and the negativity that comes up. That's what Bashar never talks about, almost. I never heard him talk about that, how you deal with all the negative energy and all the chaos that come up when you do this. He just talks about identifying a negative belief and that's the cause of whatever. It's not how it works in practice, at least not in my experience, and I have gone from level 50 to the 500s or higher 500s in 4 years. So I know a lot, if not everything. I know a lot about how this process works, and I don't recommend anybody to look for any negative beliefs. Just do the formula, act on your highest excitement, and allow whatever comes up to come up, and then you focus on it until it leaves you. That's the way to do it. My new ebook, Unmasking the Ego, goes into great detail about the root cause of suffering, negativity, and evil, and also how this plays out on the world stage. You also gain complete clarity about the levels of consciousness, and you will discover the fastest way to unconditional love, or the higher 500s on the scale of consciousness. So hit the link below to grab your copy today.